Good morning, Dani Gogs. Welcome to Run Chats with Ron Runs NYC. How are you?
I am good. Good morning to you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. It's glad we got a chance to finally hook up and a little Zoom face to face and a little Run Chats pod discussion.
Me too. I'm happy. Finally connected, and we're gonna get it.
Yeah. Like all of 2020 and the beginning of 2021, scheduling and challenges are rife and all around us. So we got to make our way through the shitstorm and just keep moving forward because that's all we can do, right?
That's it. That and you gotta laugh. You just laugh. You gotta laugh at it. It's so 2020. Everything is 2020.
I love it. We gotta have a positive attitude because it's beaten us all down, man. And you gotta acknowledge it. But I'm thankful, and I know you're thankful, and the listeners to my show are thankful that we have the ability to run, swim, bike, and just do physically active sports to keep us together, upright, and sane. Because I don't know where the hell any of us would be without that.
Oh my gosh, it's been a year. It's been a year trying new things and just keeping bodies moving. And started out that way back in March last year with everybody kind of, what am I going to do for a workout when every gym closed down and you couldn't buy a pair of running sneakers, you couldn't find a bicycle available. Everybody took to the outside because it was the only place you were allowed to be. So
yeah,
new adventures.
Correct. Have some control of your life. And for everybody listening, Dani's from Long Island. What part of Long Island are you from?
I live in Deer Park. So that's Suffolk County.
Okay. And I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of do a little introduction of how you got involved with first sports overall, before you became a badass triathlete doing Ironman and long distance stuff. And now dipping your toe into the ultra water. Back in 2010, you just gotta start it out like many of us do, going to a gym, a local 5K, et cetera. Walk us through a little bit of that part of your story. Cause that's really where you first got involved with competing and venturing into the sports world here that we're living in.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I was always active as a child and through high school and college. I was a varsity gymnast. I was a cheerleader. I was a dancer, danced my entire life, danced on the dance team in college. And then, when you graduate college and you get your job and you're working in Manhattan, like I was doing, and commuting to work, and you think that's hot shit. You got the 9-to-5 job in the city, and you go to the gym at 5 a.m. before work, or you go to the gym after work. So going to the gym consisted of, 20 minutes on the treadmill, lifting a couple of weights, taking a few spin classes here and there. And that's pretty much how, me, my friends, and we kept in shape, so to speak. And then, a few years later, I decided to run a 5K. A girlfriend of mine, she's actually one of my best college friends, still one of my besties to this day. She was a runner and she had been doing marathons for a little while. So she said, why don't you come with me to run this 5K? And I was like, 5K, 3 miles, it's a long time. That's a long run. I'm used to running, little half-mile increments, 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And I went with her and it ended up being so much fun. I had never been in a race environment. It was a summer run series at Eisenhower Park. So anybody in the metro area of New York will know where that is. And my friend Liz, she says, come on, we're going to do this. And both of us ended up placing in our age group, which was, I didn't even know what that meant. And at the time, it was so long ago, they actually gave you a ribbon, like those little ribbons. And it said, second place age group or first place age group, whatever it was. And I said, well, that's cool. We can win these things. So her and I did another one with her. And then it went from another 5K to another 5K to a 10K was the next goal. Because once you feel good about that achievement, that's a big deal. Like I ran a 5K, I'm a 5K runner. Like I started reading about it and learning more about how you're supposed to run those things, what pacing is, what's a good pace, what's a good time for a 5K, and all those things. And you start, it's self-taught at that time. 10K, same thing. And then, it spiraled into this triathlon thing too, but yeah, not without a half marathon first and a marathon and all that good stuff. But yeah, started with 5K. And I think everybody I know that does any kind of endurance sports, they all say, well, it started with a 5K because that's how it begins.
The funny thing is the simplest, littlest thing in the world, a ribbon or any other, you know, way that you get recognized, you know, competing in some small summer series like that. And we've all, anybody who's listening to the show, who's an avid runner, there's these series go on all over the place in local parks, New Jersey, New York City, Connecticut, Long Island, or any other part of the U.S. where you're from. And those series are great, and they have an impact on people because they get you to come back for more. If it's a Tuesday night race or a Thursday night race or a weekend cross country series, it starts to build that community feeling, and you start realizing, hey, if I show up, I'm going to see this same group of people again, and you start to make
seeing the same faces.
You start making friends, and you start exchanging phone numbers. If you go back as long as I did before we had Instagram and Facebook and all that, it was phone numbers. Hey man, let's meet for a run sometime. You know, then you start to do these races, and, you know, you start finding that you're really competitive. Like, hey man, I want to win. I want to win that medal or the ribbon. I want to win the age group. And then 5K, like you said, like seemed really far. Of course it was far. 3 miles is far, but you know, now it doesn't even seem like it would count. But a long time ago, the idea of running 3 miles would have seemed crazy.
Daunting.
Yeah.
Daunting and slow, to say the least.
Of course.
You know.
Of course. And then worked your way up, you know, 10K, half marathons, and, you know, and the like. And you said you even did a full marathon as well, right? You said when you were first getting going, and you were enjoying that experience. And then you were invited to do like a neighborhood triathlon, right? That was.
Oh, yeah. This is, you know, back when triathlon has grown in popularity so much, especially in the last couple of years, right? So anybody I know that's a triathlete, most of them started out as a runner. You know, that I was just a runner is like famous last words.
Yeah.
But then, there was a local, I mean, at the time I only heard of, and not even someone I knew in person, only heard of 1 or 2 folks that did an Ironman. And it was like, whoa, they were like famous in our tiny little community here, right? So, but now, you know, you come in contact with somebody and you're like, oh, which Ironman are you doing this year? Because everybody now has been introduced to it, loves it, hates it, whatever it is, but they do it. So yeah, my husband now, he has been my best friend my entire life. We met in college, and besties ever since we were 17 years old. So he and I would run together every once in a while with my friend Liz, who I mentioned earlier. They were childhood friends, and we all went to college together. So there's a little bit of background on our friendship. So he had said, you know, hey, there's this triathlon. It's called the Tri-Slip Sprint Triathlon. It was like in Islip, New York. They don't even have it anymore. It doesn't even exist, but it was like a field of, I don't even know, separated by age groups. How many people participated? Probably 150, maybe 130 overall. But it was small and it was short. It was a super sprint. It was like a 300-meter swim or 400-meter swim, like a 10-mile bike and a 2.8-mile run, something really small and really short. And I was like, triathlon? I don't know how to do a triathlon. I don't even know what that really is. And he was like, no, it'll be fun. So together we went to the triathlon store and we rented wetsuits because no one owned a wetsuit, or even, I didn't even know what you really needed it for. I had a bike that was like my husband at the time, his mountain bike, like a Schwinn mountain bike, a unisex mountain bike.
I love it.
You didn't wear, you know, running watches or anything. So you had no idea what time you were running in. But yeah, we showed up that morning. I signed up for the thing. We showed up. I swam or doggy paddled or whatever it was that got me through the, you know, around the buoys and back in and on the bike. And I think, and I have pictures, and I'll have to show them to you, the like transformation pictures with the bike helmet that's sideways on my head that I bought in Kmart the day before. It was kind of like, it's obscene and it's ridiculous and so laughable at this point. But yeah, it was like, and then I got on the run and I finished, and you know, every person that finishes, they held the tape for you in the finisher chute. So they held it for every participant to run through the tape. And I remember like just pushing it out of my way because I didn't know that I was supposed to like, run through it. And it was like, get this thing out of here. I finished. And it was so many moments of embarrassment, but also like elation at the same time, because I was like, oh, I just did a triathlon. Like was so cool. And it was awful. I think I was probably one of the last finishers because I just didn't know any better on how to pace yourself, push yourself, what you're supposed to be doing. But I was like, when's the next one?
That's epic. What a great story. The finish line tape is absolutely classic. Crack up city.
Like,
You know, you thought they were going to like lock you up and tape you
Yeah,
up
I had-
and haul you
exactly.
off or something. But I think some of my favorite stories though are friends, you know, I've got friends who the first running race they ever did was an ultra. Like, I mean, I've got a pretty eclectic group of friends and just all over the place in terms of how we got involved with getting involved in this, you know, fitness lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. And
Yes.
you know, wearing a crazy helmet, riding, you know, some wacko bike, you know, with no clips and no
No.
shoes or anything. Like it seems impossible, but it's only fitting because when people look at an Instagram page today and they see, you know, an absolute badass tricked out bike and they see an awesome racing kit and they see somebody who's like, you know, massively equipped with all this gear and stuff and super fit, you know, everybody looks like a pro for the most part and trains and races like pros and are super fit people. But man, we all got our start similarly to that, you know, riding on some crazy ass mountain bike that didn't fit us.
No.
And, you know, or renting a wetsuit. That's even better. You know, like back then surfers were like the only ones who had wetsuits. You know, if you weren't a surfer, you didn't have a wetsuit, you didn't even know what one was. And I remember conning one of my best friend's younger brother at the time. We used to play a lot of tennis tournaments. He was a college tennis player. And it was something we just started to do after college just because, you know, I was a D1 college baseball player and, you know, I hadn't found, you know, a lot of things that could engage me, you know, from being a team sport athlete and a competitive athlete in that way. And I was like, wow, triathlon, this is fun. You know, I was dating a girl who used to do all these long bike rides and she did RaD, which is like riding bikes across the state of Iowa and you camp outside. And she did all these long distance rides and I'd show up, they hammered the shit out of me, Dan. He was like beat down. I was like, I'm embarrassed. I suck.
Yes,
I can't even ride a bike and they're riding like 100 miles. And I'm like, I need to stop like every 15 miles because my ass hurts. I feel like way out of shape. And I just remember that was my introduction to it. Cause then 2 weeks later, she's like, we're all going to do a triathlon similarly to you. And I was like, well, I don't know how to swim. I mean, I can swim in the ocean and swim in a lake, but I don't really know how to swim. And she's like, oh, you'll be fine. Yeah, I damn near drowned. And I did the same thing, you know, the way you got roped in. I conned one of my friends to go to San Diego. I'm like, look, San Diego, you have to understand, it's pancake flat. There's no hills in San Diego. It's going to be the easiest bike and running course in the world. The swim is in like a bay. I think it was in Coronado Bay. Now, so this is not going to be a hard triathlon. Well, sure enough, there was like waves in the swim. The kid nearly drowned. The bike we were supposed to rent for him and get him, it wasn't available. And he ended up on a bike that was like 5 sizes off from his frame. And then I tell him there's no hills in San Diego because the parts I'd been, there weren't any hills. Sure enough, we get into this bike course and we make a turn, you know, coming out from where all the naval ships are and all the stuff down there. And I'm like, I look up and I'm like, what the fuck is this hill? And I remember I almost came out of my pedals climbing. And I was back then, I had just gotten into the sport, but my riding was okay. And my riding was, if anything, pretty decent for a brand new person because I was a strong runner. And I remember getting to the top of the hill going, oh no, he'll never make it up here. And sure enough, after the race, and it's so ironic because Bud Light used to sponsor the races then. This is like my early 30s. So you get beer companies sponsoring triathlons and marathons and giving out their beer and Corona and Bud Light. And everybody's getting hammered after the race. And I went to the race director. I must have gone to him like 50 times. Have you seen, you know, I don't want to say his name out loud because if he's listening, you know, have you seen this person? No. Like, well, it could he have gotten pulled out of the water? You know, I don't know. And then finally, you know, like God knows how much longer after, I finally found him and he was okay. And he didn't hate me and he survived and he finished. But yeah, so we all have some kind of crazy ass wacko story. But I also thought that would be a fun place to branch off a little. You know, we're going to get into your creds and how awesome you've been doing with your racing now, like circa 2020, 2018, 2019, you know, going backwards and things that you've qualified for and done. But way back then, you had a huge fear of swimming in open water, like so many people. And for anybody who's listening today, this is all for you, because I know I was not afraid of the open water in terms of I could go in and swim and boogie board and ride and body surf waves for hours. I could outlast the youngest of kids, and I'd be out there. I'd be the oldest dude out there, boogie board and body surfing all day. But you try to put me in a lake or an ocean with waves, and I didn't really even know how to breathe properly on one side or the other. And, hyperventilating, panicking, getting kicked, elbowed. It was not pretty. So I think there's people out there in these COVID times we talk for coming on the air. They might just be looking for something different, not to like crush anybody's mood, but I personally don't think any majors are going to happen this year. And if they do, maybe we'll get lucky. It'll be the end of the year majors like New York, November, that first Sunday, maybe London in October. But I just don't believe any of the earlier, marathon majors are going to happen in the first half of this year. If anything, I think it's going to be late into the year. So for anybody out there that's looking for something different, and you're a good runner already, man, you got to give triathlon a try. And if your fear has always been, I can't swim, I can't do open water, Dani's going to tell us a little about what her experience was like, and now how she's not only graduated from that and became a badass Ironman, but also what she's doing with her athletes that she coaches.
Yeah, totally. And there's no shame in my game. Like there's a list of accomplishments, but they didn't come without a list of disappointments as well. So there, in the beginning with triathlon, swimming. I mean, could I swim? Yeah, I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island. I go to the beach. I, like you, can play around on a surfboard, a boogie board. You're frolicking around with your friends. Same thing with swimming pools and things like that. Never scared. Not scared of sharks, not scared of jellyfish, not scared of any of that stuff. But to swim in it, there was something that when you put yourself in an environment you're uncertain about and it's big, right? So the thing for me was like spatial, this open water spatial swim. It was like certain bodies of water I was okay, little tiny rivers that I felt were narrow and almost like could hug you, where you felt like you were closed in a little bit. It's the large bodies of water that freaked me out and crippling, sickening, crippling, fear. It's real. It hurts. It has done everything but it's made me hyperventilate, cry, curse myself, want to quit, all of those things. And I could never put my finger on what exactly it was. It was like, be so geared up for triathlon. And then all of a sudden I get in the water, and this is practice swims with groups. I mean, I've been involved with triathlon people, teams, groups all along. And they'd be cheering you on, saying, Dani, you could do this. You got this. You got this. And with every swim coach and every technique and everything that I learned, the thing I could not get through was that fear. So yeah, I'd be successful in the pool. I hired swim coaches who were like, yes, you're capable. You can do this. Your time is good. This is good. Your stroke looks great. You're kicking good. You're doing this, or fix this, higher elbows, keep your head further in the water, like all the points, all the cues, all the tips, which with practice were easily refined. However, I'd get to race day and something would just happen, and it went through my stomach to my brain to the point where I had my very first half Ironman was a technical DNF. My swim time took that long. The water, I swam the practice swim the day before and I was fine. Swim it with no wetsuit. Wetsuit acts like a security blanket for most of us. And even to this day, sometimes it feels like, all right, if I'm in a wetsuit, I'm good. I'm not going to drown. I won't die. I will make it out of the water. It helps you float. It helps you get through the water faster. Yes, true to all of those things, right? So I did the practice swim the day before and I was fine. No wetsuit. I'm happy, so excited. Tomorrow's my first half Ironman. I'm going to crush this, blah, blah, blah. That morning, Ray, my husband, is fixing my swim cap, and this fear in my face, he's like, you got this. I'm like, I don't got this. And I looked out and you could see the buoys now. Buoys are all set up. And I'm like, that's really far out there. And it was windy and it was choppy. And of course it was what I thought at the time was the worst possible swim ever to be swam. How are they holding a race today? I can't believe it. It's so choppy. But you know what? I started and I got out to the first probably 25 meters and I was panicked, on my back, crying. How am I going to do this? Everybody's watching me because I pumped it up to be like my first half Ironman. Everybody's watching me. What are they going to say? You know, and worried. And here I am, I'm getting in my head, worried about what people are saying, worried about having a heart attack out there because I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Stop it literally every single kayak to take a breath. And I would tell the volunteer how nervous I was, how scared I was. And every single one of them was like, take a couple deep breaths. You got this. You're going to make it. And I kept looking at my watch, looking at my watch, looking at my watch. I'm like, I'm not going to make this. I do push myself through that swim. I think I was like, and I shouldn't quote how far behind the hour and 10 minutes I was. I think it was like an hour 12, right? But they let me out of the water. They did not take my timing chip. They let me continue the race. So in my head, I was doing this 70.3 distance, whether it killed me that day. So I did. And it was a hilly, monstrous, mountainous bike ride. It took me so much longer than it should have on that as well. And I cried at the last half mile, like, oh my God, I have to run a half marathon. This is 97 degrees. I felt like shit. I was disappointed, but I ran, and the run was what made me so happy that day. I ran and I was eating snacks from all the people handing out snacks, and people are drinking beer, and everybody's partying on the run. So I was like back in my, in my groove, and I finished the thing, and it was very long time. It was 7 hours and change. And I was probably one of the last 50 people into the end of the race. I didn't care. I was so proud of like pushing through all of that. And I had a full Ironman scheduled like 2 months later. So I was like, there's no way I could do a full Ironman. There's no way. I did. And the same thing. It was one of those, I had a swim coach who guided me through all of the mechanics, and she was awesome. And she had all the confidence in the world for me. And she came to the race with me in Louisville. That was Louisville in 2016. And my husband was there, and my core crew of people I trained with and practiced with, and they watched me panic every week in open water swims. And they, people just, they kind of just support you and help you and just tell you it's going to be okay. And the same thing happened. I went out for the first part of the swim. Was good. It was easy. I was calm. It was in this narrow part of the river. And anybody who's done Ironman Louisville knows you swim upstream, right? And even the current that was against me didn't faze me, didn't bother me. I was swimming pretty good pace. I made that turn where you turn around the island and the river opens up into this gigantic body of water. And I was, you see the 3 bridges that you're supposed to swim under. I'm looking around. I literally come up perpendicular, and I'm like paralyzed. How am I going to finish this? I was so good. I was so confident. I got this far and I was swimming fast. And there was kayak after kayak after kayak. I just couldn't catch my breath. So what I did was I had to tackle it mentally and just break it off. If I could swim to the next kayaker or to the next buoy, I'd be okay. And I could take a break there. And I did. And I made it out of the water with 5 minutes to spare. I was dead ass last person in the race out of the water. I made it within the required time, dead ass last. But you know what? I was so happy. I think I did cartwheels out into transition. It was one of those, like, it was a 2-hour swim, and took so much of my energy. But you know what? I got on the bike and I was starting to pass people. And then when I got off the bike and I got on the run, I was passing everyone. I'm high. I was, to this day, hands down, one of the top 3 days of my life. Like the best day ever. And from that point on, I ended up, I had changed swimming coaches, and because I kept still in the back of my head, I was like, it has to be something with the swim. What am I not learning? What am I not getting? And I hired this elite athlete he's famous on Long Island as like the man. He's fast. He's, fast, super talented, amazing person. And I hired him, and I spent a lot of money and a lot of time, going over these mechanics again. And he fixed little things with me. And he tells me one time, he goes, I cannot fix scared. I just can't. He's like, you swim fine in the pool, but you get out into the open water, because we would do both. We'd swim in the pool, we'd swim in the open water. And he's like, I cannot fix whatever that is in your head. And I was like, I don't know what to do either, because you swim confidently in the pool, you swim confidently on your own, but you get into these groups or these bigger things, and I just lose my shit. So we had we kept training like that. And he was a coach that was said flat out, I'm not going to deal with that. So either you're going to swim or we're not swimming, kind of thing, which is exactly what I needed. I didn't need any more of that, like, you can do this, let's get through this. It was like, I needed the hard line cut for me.
You didn't need you got this. You're 5 miles into the marathon and people yelling, you got this, and you look great. And it's like, fuck off.
Right. The 20-mile wall. And they're like, you're almost there. You're like, fuck you. I'm not almost there. I'm
not even close to almost there. So go spin your bullshit to somebody else.
Exactly.
But thanks for coming out.
Yeah. So he did it. He scheduled an open water swim I was supposed to swim like my 2-mile swim that day. And we did it. Hurricane Nate. It was the year of Hurricane Nate. We're swimming in the North Shore.
I love it.
I said, he's got to be crazy. He set up a buoy course, and all you see is these tied up, little center console boats that are anchored out there, and they're tied up and they're rocking everywhere. And we did it. It was pouring rain. It was tumultuous. It was seasickness beyond. I never looked back, ever. And
that was
every race from that point forward, and I got this, and I did it with a smile on my face, not that terrified look that you could look back at, like, finisher photos. And you see me coming out of the swim early on in my long course or even my short course, where I'd be like terrified. The face said it all, right?
Yeah.
To the confidence, to the rock on, to throwing shakas up there, to all of it, all smiles, ripping the goggles off. Like, I did that shit, and I did it. And I have races that I did it without a wetsuit. There were wetsuit illegal races, and each of those battles, as you overcome them, they become teaching tools for me. So, like, anybody that I've ever, worked with, taught with, trained with, even just buddy system, we all have our stories that we share together to kind of motivate, or at least bring it to reality that, like, this shit happens and it's real. And, like, you can and will get through it if you find the way that works for you. And for me, it was, put me in the worst situation possible. Like, don't give me any assistance. Don't put me in a race environment where I have a kayak I could swim up on, because that's a crutch to me, because I know I can get there and I'm going to stop there. But if you put me out there in a hurricane where no one's out there and no one's to help me, I have to do it myself. Like, I had to swim it. So I think it was an epic day, and the realization that I had this in me all along, but I had to have it cut and dry like that. Like, I didn't need the crutch, and I needed somebody to just literally throw me off the side of a boat and swim in. So
what an epic experience to go through. And
really was traumatizing. It really was. Well, I say it with all the love in my heart that it was real. And my story, there's no shame in that. Like, you can be not that great at something and then become pretty damn good at it.
I mean, that's the whole point of, the show and diving into stuff. It isn't just about the big wins we have in our life and breaking tape and not even understanding what breaking tape was, because you're such a rookie and a noob. You're just like, get this shit off of me. But, for everybody out there, it applies to all sports. It applies to running. It applies to cycling, triathlon, swimming. We all have our phobias, man. We all have our bête noirs. We all have something that are like, oh God, no, not that. I can't run in the humidity when it's 90%. I'll fucking fail. You know what? You can, if you prepare for it, if you take it on, and if you work on it. Now, swimming is one of the most technical things in the world. I can get on a bike after 20 something years, and literally in a matter of a couple of weeks, I was able to start grinding a ton of miles and handle a lot of hills and really ride really respectable paces again. I wasn't trying to race or anything. I was just trying to get comfortable on the bike again, handling a bike, having people around me on a bike, climbing hills, etc. Just all of it. 20 something years away is a long time. Swimming is just an out-of-body experience. If you grew up as a kid and you were a swimmer and you swam in high school and college and all, well, then you can just look at everybody else like, fuck off, I'm a swimmer, man. And you got the shoulders and the back and you're fucking badass, and you get on the deck and you have perfect lip turns. And then there's me or you who are like, this shit is scary, man. I don't know how to do this shit. I don't know how to breathe on my left side or my right side. I don't know bilateral breathing. I don't know any of this stuff. But you know what? You can learn. But I think the most powerful part of your story is, you hired really good coaches. You worked on the technical aspect of your stroke. But the truth is, we can work on any technical aspect of any sport. Okay. And for all of my running friends out there that are focusing on their cadence and they want to change their running form, they don't want to be a heel striker anymore. You know what I say to you? Fuck off, man. You learned how to run the way your body is designed to run. Unless you're an Olympian and you've got, biomechanical experts filming you and studying you in Colorado Springs, and they're telling you to be a mid striker or 4-foot striker, the idea of changing how you run is ludicrous. Okay. It's ludicrous. But swimming, which is really technical, your stroke, entry in the water, your pull, your catch, all these different things that go on. Yeah, you can do all those things. And with an elite coach, even, or elite coaches, but at some point, that's not what the problem is. And I loved how you explained it, because it is real. It is incredibly real. I mean, I can feel it right now. That feeling of, yes, I was able to build up to be able to swim a mile, 1.2. Yep. When my friend qualified for Kona, he worked for FedEx. So he could fly anywhere FedEx flew on their cargo planes. Like, he flew all over the world. He did Ironman Lanzarote. He did Ironman New Zealand, Ironman Australia. He was racing Ironmans all over the world because he was an endurance freak. And his best chance to qualify for Kona was racing in an Ironman, not racing in a 70.3 or shorter. And I mean, he was elite. I mean, he was missing by one spot for years. And I told him, I go, dude, you make it to Kona, I'm rolling with you. I'm going. Yes. I'm coming to Kona. And sure enough, the motherfucker makes it. He qualifies for Kona. Tim Monaco. We trained with Ridgewood Triathlon Club, Ridgewood, New Jersey. Yep. And he's a badass. He qualified. And I went out there, Dani, and it was the experience of a lifetime. If anybody's ever watched the Ironman on TV, I don't think there's anything more emotional or more moving in a day. It is television production at its highest and most visceral quality. I mean, you will be moved to tears many times, whether you're watching Chris Nickick, a Down syndrome kid, complete an Ironman, be the first one ever to do it, or it's a human interest story of someone else who has cancer, or they're fighting some other illness, or whatever, human interest story they weave into that day. Not to mention the elites and the age groupers who are out there tearing up, Kona and ripping it. But I got to go there, Dani. I got to get off the plane. And I'd never swam more than 1.2 miles at that point. And the course is set up with the real buoys in Kailua Bay, or wherever the hell you say it. And back then, Gatorade was the primary sponsor. I don't know who is these days, but the giant Gatorade buoy was at the turnaround at 1.2 miles. Now, my friend's like, oh, dude, you can swim 2.4 miles. I'm like, Tim, I can't swim 2.4 miles. He goes, look, there's so much salt in this water, like no one could sink. And I'm like, okay, you're right. I feel you. And he's like, it's important to me. I want to get out to that buoy. I want to see my sight lines. I was, all right, fine. He just was driving me crazy. I'm like, all right, I'll go. Dani, I ripped up my shoulder because my stroke became so unbalanced at one point or another, where I was just putting all the emphasis on my right side because I'm right arm. I made it all the way out there. I'm just letting anybody know, I can't believe how far away the shore looked from what, because in their old swim course, it's 1.2 out, 1.2 back. Other ones, you're doing all these crazy turns like you're talking about in Louisville. But there I was just like, what? Like,
no, they go out and back.
Yeah, you could barely see the hotel on the beach. But so I got to swim the course with him, and then we biked. We didn't bike. We biked different parts of the bike course. He wanted to see different parts. We got out to Javi, where the turnaround is for the 112, and we ran past the Natural Energy Lab because we'd heard about it for years.
You have to.
Yeah, but being there and being on the course with him, and the same way you see it turn from light to dark, and then the moon comes up and all those things that happen there. Like, I'm getting chills just, I'm back there. I'm back there. I remember him coming down the road. I remember seeing his face come across the line, and we didn't have all this GPS shit like today where you would know exactly, like your husband, you know, Ray's going to go, oh, where's Danny? He had no fucking idea where you were. You could be still on the bike, you know, even know. Now it's like, all right, man, you know, Danny's like 46 miles in, and, you know, she's on the bike, and, you know, here she's going, and she's averaging 17.7. Like, we didn't know anything back then. Right. But for me to go there and to see that experience, but hearing you talk about it, it brings it all back, because the open water, it couldn't be any more different. You had all the coaches working with you, all of your technique, all the other stuff. And you said it so well, because being in a river or a more narrow thing, I get you, man. I feel you, because I don't know, it's not a security blanket like a wetsuit, but it just doesn't feel as bad. But you go in a full ocean where the waves are coming over both sides and maybe hitting you where you breathe. And then you get some swimmers coming up and elbowing you and kicking you. And it's like, oh boy, I don't know what's going on here. So I think that's so awesome that you came from that spot of like paralyzing fear. And for everybody out there, man, that's why I don't do that whole, you got this shit. I'm not a person who does it. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't love all my friends on Instagram or all my running clubs and all my other stuff, but that's just not my thing. Like, you got this. I might be like, crush it, kill it, whatever, but no one's got anything. Okay. No. Like, people are writing to me. I'm signed up for my first 100-miler. Oh, dude, you're going to crush that 100-mile. I'm like, no, more like I'm going to get crushed. I'm going to be hallucinating. And if I'm lucky, I have a chance on earth, I will somehow finish 100-mile.
Every single time.
You're going to crush it.
Every single time.
You got this.
You have to have the mindset, like, yeah, it's because you don't know what the day is going to serve up to you.
There you go. Yeah, you could have those 5-foot swells. You got the waves coming in on the side. You breathe, right? So you breathe on the right side, and it's just all coming right in. So you got to this point. You went out there and swam in basically a hurricane, and that took that phobia away. So
it was a pivotal moment.
Changed everything. Yeah. So that brought you through to the other side. And now that fear is no longer there. No. So you had 3 things that you have to master as a triathlete, or at least be proficient. You don't have to master. Most people can be either a really great swimmer to start with, so then they become pretty good in the bike or the run, but they're not going to necessarily be as good as other people. If you're a really good runner, it's usually will help you a lot on the bike too, but swimming is probably going to be a big problem. So it just depends. But to be able to, that's why I have such respect for the sport, because man, it's just a lot. And it takes a lot to be able to pull it together.
Like, if you can't get through the swim, all that training you put on the bike and all that training on the run, like, if you don't finish the swim, there is no bike or run.
You're out.
That's it.
If you don't make the cutoff. And in Louisville, you only made it by what, about 10 or 15 minutes? Or
I think it was 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. It was like the window was closing in on me.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah. But I loved how you described it, because once you got out of the water, that's when the party began, because you knew you made it, man. You said you did a cartwheel or whatever, like, you made it. And it's amazing, because most people don't understand like the endurance athlete's mindset. Like, you already won, because
it was like, I knew that day I got out of that swim with enough time. I will say plenty of time, right? Because it was within the time frame. So I said, I don't care if my bike breaks down, if I crash, if I die on any other part of this race, as long as I made the time in that swim, day is done for me. I was victorious right there. So I didn't care. I was like, I could DNF on the bike and I don't give a shit, because I know how to ride a bike, and I know that, I can run. So it was, and I can remember every single moment of that day this many years later. Like, it's just, I remember all the feels, all the smells, and all, just all of it.
That's awesome. Well, the win, like you said, the win was to conquer the swim. And to get in and out of that water, whether you had to take a break at a kayak or backstroke or side stroke, doesn't matter. You got the hell out of that water. And that would be absolutely the biggest single thing for me. Of course, I may not finish the bike or the run. Of course, you could have mechanical problems. All sorts of things can happen, as you know.
There's no crystal ball.
None of us have any control of it. But I feel like that's where we would be in the locked in mindset. If I could get out of that water, I don't care if I had 1 second to go and they let me go into the transition.
Exactly.
I just feel like
that's the thing. It set me up for future races because I do short distance and Olympic distance as well. So, following that, there's a girlfriend of mine and we would do a relay every year for the same race. It's a local race here on Long Island, triathlon, and we relay it every single year. And we typically rotate which discipline we take, but I wanted to do the swim because it wasn't about us winning. It was about me focusing on my weakest link. So ends up that we ended up winning that year anyway, which was fantastic. So cool. My girlfriend and I, she did the bike, I did the swim and the run, and that's how we worked it out that year. And we took first place in the relay, which was stupendous to me because it was like, you can do hard things. So
that's super. And that's how we get better at our weaknesses. And
that's it.
It's one of the things I like to spend time talking about with my guests are like, there's never been a better time to self-evaluate. There's never been a better time to go Goggins and go accountability mirror and just say, hey man, what are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What can I improve? What am I afraid of? What have I not really challenged myself with? Like, what am I really not being honest about in terms of like my current situation? Like, where am I at? Like, what can I do? And, if you can't race a bunch of marathon majors and that's your thing, then guess what? You better find something else to do because you got to keep moving forward. So find some trail races, man. Get involved in the ultra world.
Is it virtual stuff?
Yeah. So you gotta find something, and, whatever that is, stick with that, ramp up your mileage, work on your strength, work on your conditioning outside of running, foam roll more, work on strength and flexibility, add in some other stuff. If you're a shorter distance runner and you like to race and you're into track or cross country, work on form and drills. There's always some way to self-evaluate, self-scout your own capabilities and performance. As an athlete, even if you're not a coach, you are coaching other athletes. So, how does that, I know you are obviously evaluating your own self and you've worked through your swimming stuff, but how about for the athletes that you're coaching?
Yeah, my athletes, I think I've explained to you a little bit off the air that, my husband and I started our business, a coaching business, to prepare for his retirement from the New York City Police Department and to fulfill goals of my own, because I have had so many amazing coaches who have taught me so much by way of mechanics and also life, and triathlon being such a big part of my life. It is my lifestyle, not just, it's this passion of mine. So I wanted to give back to people that may be intimidated by, I guess I should say, faster, stronger, more seasoned athletes. So I have a roster of really a lot of beginners, people who were former soccer players, a former runner, a baseball player, somebody who was boxing, someone who did their first half marathon and wants to do a triathlon, or just, to challenge themselves with something they've never done. So we have taken that route, and the people that have gravitated towards us are people like my husband, who either are police, fire, military, medical professionals who have very off schedules and they don't have the ability to train on a normal Monday through Friday short stuff, Saturday, Sunday long stuff. They may not have that kind of availability. So we have an understanding of people with very swinging schedules, long work days, 12-hour tours, 24-hour tours, or shifts, if you will. So we have found a little niche of those folks who are goal-oriented, athletes of some sort, one way or another, and they're looking for guidance in all of the disciplines. So it actually helps us realize how much we do know by having people who don't know anything about any of the three, from whether it's how to put goggles on to get in the pool, or it's what sneakers should I be wearing for the run. what is a triathlon bike? What's a road bike? What's the difference? How do I ride a bike? How do I change gears? What do I need to ride inside? What's nutrition like? What's an Ironman like? And they, they see through social media and anywhere else, whether it's the Goggins of the world or it's, Ironman, they say, I want to do that too, because the hype is there, and it's motivational, and people are goal oriented. You have to set something for yourself to do. Otherwise, what are you doing in this space? So yeah, I mean, that's what we do. We work with all of my athletes. Most of my athletes are pretty new to triathlon. They've done one or two or one of the three sports of triathlon. Some people I coach are just runners and want to get faster. Some of the people I coach just need some adult swim instruction. Some people want all three. Some people just need a plan because they don't know how to find a plan. And it's been working out pretty well for us. And we just find that our experiences are what help us teach the newcomers. And we love that. And we're a referral-based business. I don't really advertise or anything like that. I'm not looking to get rich. I had to explain that to you. This was something I did out of passion, and I've networked myself where we've become coaches for affiliate teams so that we're involved with a number of different triathlon teams nationwide and locally. And that helps us, and we meet people in the community, local and abroad. So it's just so much fun to meet different people and share experience. And, if we can cover our race expenses and stuff like that with what we make, I mean, I'm not paying my mortgage with it. But, it's something that we just set out to do. And it's become my life, my business, my baby.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's wonderful because it's a way to give back, and it's not some massive financial windfall, but you're sharing things that you've learned along the way, things that helped you break through, your phobia with open water swimming and other things. And, so that they don't have to go to a Walmart to buy a helmet or, get some crazy ass mountain bike and, not be running in a decent pair of shoes where they might potentially injure themselves. And,
that's the thing, trying to protect people from injury, as well as, teach them. And then, we have a lot of people who just want to be better and better and better. So, you do heart rate run tests and power tests on the bike, and they're like, oh, all right, I want a better number. So we do it again in 6 weeks because we program the workout so that you're constantly improving on the things you want to improve on. People want to get fast. People just want to get out there. They want to race. They want to be fast. They want to do good at what they're doing. It's so much fun, and it's a learning curve for all of us. I mean, we had to we trained, for 2 years, taking classes to certify in everything, whether it was UESCA for the running, it's USAT for triathlon, it's Ironman U, and then everything beyond that, USMS and US, all these certifications and courses and seminars and weekends and physical tests and all that, just to know that we know what we're talking about. And I do love sharing the experience. I have a set of brothers who are new clients, and they came on in the summer when pools are shut down over COVID. They don't know how to swim. One's a bodybuilder. The other one's a former baseball player, both solid athletes in what they do. One guy owns a gym. He's a personal trainer, owns a gym. He knows fitness. He knows nutrition, does not know triathlon.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to swim. And, we taught these guys, and we put them in the open water, typically backwards from what most coaches would do, because normally you'd start in the pool, work your skill set, and then put you in the open water to train for a race. We did it backwards. There were no pools. So we went right into the bay, right into the open water, and taught, listen, this is how you're going to get through it. And now we're back in the pool as pools start to open, and being able to hone in on, mechanics and stuff like that. But I mean, 2 guys didn't know even what kind of goggles I should wear. Mirrored? Do I wear clears? Do I wear tinted? What are we doing? To now we're in the pool and we're doing all kinds of drills with kickboards and fins and paddles and all that stuff. So it's an evolution.
It's super cool. And, there's there's a very different feeling about helping people get a start from ground zero, literally from nothing at all, or taking somebody who's actually pretty competitive and maybe an age group athlete and really helping them hit a huge goal. It's every bit as a wonderful feeling as yourself making a Boston Marathon or qualifying to run in Kona, qualifying to race in Kona. Like, it's incredible because you're part of that. You're writing the workouts, you're encouraging them, you're instructing them, and you're giving them guidance. So when one of them does something epic, you win together. And when one of them doesn't, when one of them struggles or fails in a race, that's what a support system is all about. That's why you have a community. That's why you build a community, because it's not the bullshit, you got this. It's like, hey, because for all the people out there that meant all the best feelings in the world when they were telling you that, no, like, that's not going to solve anything. Sure, it's nice that somebody says that, but yeah, it's not going to fix if you're deathly afraid of swimming in open water, which me and many other people like yourself have faced at some point or another. And when I get back to doing tri, it's going to be a real thing that I'll have to come to grips with myself. And there's no question, you got to spend more time in the open water. There's just no way around it.
It builds your confidence. And that's, people run and they're okay with running because they're confident nothing's going to happen to them. Okay. So you might have to stop and tie your shoelace, or you might have to stop and take a drink, or stretch out your calf or whatever, but you're on solid ground. The thing with swimming is that's not a natural habitat for any of us. No. We don't have gills. We're not fish.
No. And you can't see. I think that's another big part. Yeah. I mean, breathe. Yeah. But I mean, once you learn how to breathe, you can breathe. But I think the hard part is just the vision part. If the water is brown,
it's unknown. It's all unknown and out of your control.
It is. It really is. It is all, because you're right. On a bike. Yeah. And you can look down at the ground. It's right below you. When you're running, you're running. Swimming, you can't see shit. And if you look too much, you're going to get clocked in the head and all kinds of other things are going on. So yeah, it's an interesting part of the journey, but it's something just like you've done, that can be overcome. And it's great. And it's great that you shared that piece of it, because not only will it help me personally, but it's going to help anybody else who's maybe been afraid to try, give triathlon a shot, or they've used that as their crutch, saying, oh, I could never do that, or I couldn't do that. Yes, you can. Anyone can do it. Anybody can do it. If your goal is to overcome something, you will figure out a way to do it. But it comes from hard work. It comes from not being afraid to fail. It comes from not being afraid to get your ass kicked over and over again, and just keep getting back up and saying, you know what, I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm not going to miss the cutoff. I'm going to make it underneath that time. And then once you do, then you get to do a cartwheel when you get to go on the bike in the road. Yes. Although I'm not doing any cartwheels because you were the gymnast. So I won't be doing any cartwheels, but I'll be flashing all kinds of signs up, and I'll be like talking to all the people by the water and being like, yeah, what's up? What's up? And I'll go over and get on my bike. I'll be like, yeah, let's go. And I'll be like, oh shit, I got to ride 112 miles. What the fuck? What am I so excited about? The
marathon medal at the end.
Yeah. There we go. Well, no, you got to hear that you are an Ironman 3 times or 4 times. How many times have you? 3. So that's epic. Was it like life-changing hearing it? Was it like insane, super cool?
It is. It's super cool. It is, like I said, some of the best experiences of my life. It's all the feels over and over again, whether you're racing or even like I've spectated a number of Ironman races, and to be on either side is really incredible. The energy is just, and the same thing even for marathons too. Like my one and only standalone was New York City, and it was the best day ever. It was a giant block party for 26.2 miles, and it was so much fun, as hard as it was, but like every hill, every bridge, every crowd, every turn was just, there's so much support, so much crowd energy, and you really feed off of that. And you really need that in these long distance things, whether it's a marathon or it's an Ironman. It's like, that really is what carries you. So it'd be interesting to see how this year plays out with, I know Ironman Florida in November had no spectators. So like, I give those people all the credit in the world to doing, it's like doing it virtually. Like, with honestly, nobody out there, like how does that even like
it is it basically was like doing it virtually. And I did the JFK 50 in person. You did it virtually.
I did it
So,
virtually.
and I have to tell you that although there weren't a lot of people and the field size was reduced enormously, I don't know how much, maybe by a third or by 30 or 40%. So there were less runners. It was still a very strong elite field. But as far as, the regular age group folk, the numbers were down. And as far as on the course, I can't speak to how many people were out there, along the Potomac there, along the C&O Canal. I don't know because I've never run the race before. It was my first time.
That was the first one.
I know one thing. It was an epic experience, and I wouldn't trade it for one goddamn thing. It was unbelievable to see other people again. And, I basically was not near anyone. I mean, I went down there. To go in there and get your number, Dani, the doors open on both sides of the hotel. So it was like a little outwing, like an annex of the hotel. The doors were open on both sides. All the windows were open, and one runner at a time was allowed to go into the room. So all these people out there, there's going to be the haters and the naysayers that are fucking throwing rocks and bricks and, at runners and fuck off. You know what? If you want to like live in your bat cave during COVID for the rest of your life, go ahead, but don't be shitting on people because they want to go out and do something, because that plan that they had was that serious. From not only going in to get your number in your packet, you had to have your buff or mask up at every single aid station on the starting and finish line. You had to cross the finish line with your buff up. And there was no around the finish line. They pushed you right out of there. You were gone.
There's no mingling.
You got on a bus. You got on a bus, but it was like 2 to 3 rows between each runner. So you weren't near anybody. You were all spaced out. And, like I slept over that night because I sure as hell wasn't going to drive all the way back home. And, I got up the next day and had some breakfast. And basically the only meals I ate were like in my room. I got food to go. But I'm thrilled that I went down there and did it.
I was so bummed. I couldn't do it with quarantining. And, I have 2 young kids that I share time with my ex-husband. So it's kind of like quarantine stuff. My kids come first. So I didn't want to put that my racing doesn't come before my time with them. So that said, I decided to do it, traditionally on my own. Couple of people I was supposed to do that race with, my core trail folks that I called upon to help, coach me through this thing. As we trained for it, somebody else couldn't come back because of quarantine rules. And it was just a whole mess of, was it really worth the trip? I wish we had gotten to experience it. One of the girls, very good friend of mine, she has done JFK about 3 or 4 times, and she loves that race. And that's primarily why I signed up for it, because we were going to do it together. We were signed up together. We were training together. She ended up coming down with Lyme disease, and she just wasn't able to put that stress on her body. But like, it was, we called it what it was. We're like, still 2020.
Yeah.
Because it was like, why not get Lyme's this year? Why not have to cancel another race plan?
Of course.
I was so determined to get it done because I had that as my focus for 4 or 5 months. That's what I was doing. That's what I was training for. That's what I was doing this year. I didn't care how I did it. I did it the same day. I mapped out a course that mimicked elevation, terrain to what JFK was supposed to be. I started the exact same time I was supposed to start down there, finished when I thought I was going to finish. And it was exactly how I had imagined it.
That's awesome. Well, listen, man, that's what it takes. If you
fundraised for it, I was like, I raised money for this shit. Like, I'm running this race. I don't care where I'm running it.
That's great, man. And look, man, if you put your mind to anything, you could figure out a way to get it done. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean that having those people around wouldn't have helped you more, or having somebody to share some miles with. I mean, I met all kinds of people along the way, out there on that course, And I talked to every freaking volunteer and thanked them 67 times a Sunday. And everybody was trying to clean me up because I was bleeding all around. No, don't touch that shit.
Yeah, you were all cut up.
No. Leave that shit alone, because I learned a long time ago, man, they start fucking poking around and prodding around. And all of a sudden, I mean, that shin bone of mine was swollen. I mean, literally, the scab literally just fell off like a day or 2 ago. I mean, that thing was sticking out like, almost 3/4 of an inch. It looked like somebody hit me with a hammer in the shin. And everybody's like, "Oh, it was your knee, right?" I was like, with my knee, my shin, and my ankle. I mean, I had 3 massive like welts. I mean, my hand was bleeding all over, and it was bleeding through my glove. So I eventually just took that glove off. And when I saw a can, I chucked it because I was like, it just was gross, man. It was just like blood filled, man. Like, like you stabbed somebody and had a glove on. I was like, nope, this isn't happening. This shit's got to go. Goodbye glove. So when I got to a garbage can, I tossed it. But yeah, good for you, man, that you pushed through. Next year we'll be down there in person because JFK is just amazing race, man. I'm so into that race. It's the oldest ultra in the US.
Yes, and there's so many reasons why I wanted to run it. That was one of them. It was just came highly recommended through friends, and the organization itself, they were super cool about keeping us up to date with COVID regulations and guidelines and things like that. And I got to meet people like you through there too. So you get another community setting that I was never truly involved in, that I was so happy to start reading about people and their experience in ultra marathon running, because I never saw myself in that realm. And now I'm like, ooh, that's kind of who I am too, because I did enjoy it and I loved it, and I will do another one and another one.
You've stepped up to 50. So, the next natural thing, because, you can't just go from doing, 5K, 10K, half marathon. Then it's like 70.3 Ironmans. It's the way we're all wired in the endurance community. So it's like me, I'm like, my 60th birthday is coming up the 29th. So I'm going to run 60 miles for a charity. I didn't announce the charity yet because I'm still working through the details in a course.
Right.
Hope to raise a crap load of money for a good cause. And I'm going to go Facebook Live and Instagram Live and get it out there to as many humans as possible. But then I got 100. I'm going to do my first 100-miler in April. It's the same area, JFK. It's the same. It's along the C&O Canal. It's a 40-mile loop, a 30-mile loop, and a 30-mile loop. And it's going to be completely insane.
That's bananas.
It is bananas. It's completely bananas, man. It's mind-boggling, but you know what? You haven't lived until you step way out of your own comfort zone in life. You gotta go out there and try to see how far you can push things. And I don't mean like dangerously, like people say to me like, oh, you're running all these miles. Well, hey man, I'm okay. I mean, mentally, it is far more draining when I think I'm going out the door and I'm trying to keep this streak up of running 15 miles a day. It's it's physically, I'm okay because I am like a madman right now, foam rolling. I am doing all my stuff that I need to do to keep every little thing that could be in check, because we all have our little things, right? Whether it's glute issues or this kind of problem or, ITB, a knee issue, ankle flexibility, whatever the hell it is. We all have our little things that we have to manage. And those could be things that bother us more on the bike, on the run, in the pool, shoulder, whatever the hell your things are. We all have them. I'm staying on top of stuff like crazily because I want to keep going. Now, I'm not by no means am I planning to do this for like any super extended period of time, but I didn't know that I would do it more than 2 days, and here I am. Today's day 14. So I know that the 29th is my birthday. I'm going to do 60. So I can't be that insane that I'm going to keep running 15 every day up to the day of the 60. I got to give myself at least, 1 or 2 days coming in. I don't know that I'll take days off, but maybe I just, do like some sort of fake taper where I run 4 or 5 miles or 3 miles or something. But because my one of my best friends who's always involved in my shit, he's like, dude, are you going to fucking run like 15 miles a day before the 60? I'm like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, I don't think so. Oh, no. Notice how you just said you don't think so. Because I said, I don't know. No, hopefully I'll pull the plug before then. So, going to one element I wanted to make sure I get to, because community is important to me. Yes. And I know the coaching element for you obviously touches community, but I know you're doing the swim instruction for children with special needs aquatic program. I saw that on your post and that stuff touches my heart. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure can. I work at the local high school in my district where I live, Deer Park High School. I have been there a couple of years. I am an assistant aquatics director there. So what I do is I help the aquatics director in programming for what usage pool has. And aquatics programs are growing in number as people tend to get more healthy and are looking at fitness and aqua fitness. And one of the programs that we do there, so basically I instruct the phys ed aspect of the gym classes that go on in the high school, the junior high, and the elementary schools when they're up to the aquatics section. But what we also have is a large cohort of special needs students, and that's anyone from whether it is Down syndrome to autism, behavioral disabilities that prevent them from being in a normal, average, mainstream classroom. And they are from grade school age. I have everybody from K through 12. So I work with students on every grade level. The little guys, they're so much fun, super sweet. And it's like a therapy. It's an aqua therapy. So they come and they get bused to the high school from the elementary schools in the district, and they have an hour class with us. It's myself, another instructor, and usually a couple of lifeguards on duty. And we do swim instruction, and we do everything from like the little kids. Sometimes it's just games. It's stuff to just keep their bodies moving. We have to learn each of their disabilities by reading their IEPs. So we're very involved in their background, what their personal situation is. And we do like one-on-one instruction based on what their physical needs might be. So somebody who may need leg mobility, and we work with that. Someone who may have weak back muscles, we work on different things to improve their flexibility, strength in that. It's not just teaching swim, but we also teach them what to do in an emergency. So there's days that we instruct and we have them come in the pool in their clothes, because if they fell in the pool in the backyard or fell in the pool at grandma's house, that's what it would feel like. So we try to stimulate real life situations with them too, because they may not get that experience or taught those things in their classroom or in their home. So the younger kids, especially, because they're not necessarily on sports teams. Their disabilities may prevent them from that, or their parents may not allow it, or whatever the situation is. So we take it as part of our program in allowing them to learn how to deal with those things. Should you fall in the pool with your clothes on, how can you get your clothes off? And these are some of these kids, some of these students, even the older ones, can't really dress themselves that well. There's kids in the high school who can't tie their shoes. There's kids in the high school that don't know how to brush their hair straight through, you know what I mean? And we can help with those life skills, as the older kids are life skills, and then the other ones are aquatic therapy classes. So they change as the students get older. But yeah, every day we're in there, we're in the water with them. So I'm in the pool a number of hours every single day, not just for endurance athletes and swimmers for triathlon or swimming for normal fitness. I'm in there also teaching, kids who may not have the opportunity to be taught how to swim or have that kind of therapy outside of school. It's great that the district provides a service like that. This happens to be a district that has a high number of students with disabilities and special needs. And again, like I said, it's not just physical or developmental disabilities. It's people. I have a young boy who has a seizure disorder, who has a service dog. He comes to the pool and he is in regular normal classes, but he does throw seizures very often. So he has a dog that alerts the teacher or the aide or myself if he's about to become ill or have one of his episodes. So all of these things and all of these, special folks bring something to my life every day. It's like when you think you're having like a bad day, and you can just bring a little bit of happiness to someone else's day. And that, that's my day job. But through that, I have gotten involved in other communities where I do teach inner city folks how to water swim, how to swim in a pool, where they may not have those resources readily available to them. So it's urban areas that come to the suburbs to learn how to swim. And I put a lot of my free time into that as well, because it's nice to give something back. And it sounds cliche to say that, but it really is, it's true. I volunteer my time with a lot of people. It's a lot of different organizations I try to get involved in physically in person. And then I have other things that I get involved in, to try to contribute to other charities and events. But yeah, I love my job. It's incredible. The kids, it's happiness. And it's like that hour of the day that there has to be nothing else thought about except floating. Like we say, you come and you float. It's relaxing, it's therapeutic. And like I said to you earlier in our chat, that we just, with COVID and having all of those restrictions, we weren't able to be face to face. I mean, now we're face to face, but it's different. We have to wear masks and splash guard shields in the water because you can't have that close contact with folks to prevent, the spread of this virus. But happy to have them back on a social distant level. We have to modify class sizes exponentially. And then hopefully we get to incorporate more programs. So I do an adult swim too, which same thing. People who are not confident enough to go to a regular gym and swim because they're embarrassed. They don't want to be up against like real swimmers, quote unquote, because they feel stupid or embarrassed. And they look to just get some instruction, move their body, and stay healthy, fit in any way that they can. So pretty much to sum that up. But yeah, I love it. I missed it. 10 months we were shut down, and I was just focusing on my business and doing more stuff with my kids because they were home, and homeschool and all that stuff, and no sports for them, which was great. But at the same time, no sports for anybody else meant no work for me.
Well, it's a great way to give back your time and your services and help those kids. It's such a wonderful thing to do from a community service perspective, and no question, I've always felt like you get more out of that than you put in. When you're doing things for others and the motives are pure and good, you just always feel so much better about yourself. And,
well, that's it.
Yeah. we all need to think about ways, any way that we can get involved and do more things like that. Whether it's volunteering time in the community, doing individual fundraisers for something that's important to you or somebody in your family. I guarantee you, if you think about it, something will come to you and you'll be like, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Or I was listening to what Dani was talking about with Ron, or I listened to a different episode and you know what, that's really cool. My last guest who was on, David Kilgore, ran 100 miles in the Florida heat and raised a ton of money for healthcare workers. And then he ran 73 miles amongst the 5 boroughs of New York and raised 2.5 million meals for the New York City Food Bank. So
amazing.
There's things that can be done, and we're all capable of doing stuff. You don't have to be capable of running 100 miles or 73 miles or anything else. We all have some skill set we bring to the table. And it's kind of ironic because swimming was your thing of least confidence and
yes.
the thing that you felt, the least comfortable in of all. And now you're using that, area where you struggled the most and had the most issues, and you're giving back and making people who have a real fear with it, even outside of the special needs people, feel comfortable about swimming when they're not comfortable swimming amongst other people who can swim. And so that's super cool on your end. So good job.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely full circle. It's come full circle. Yeah.
So as we get rolling here towards the end, I know you've done 3 full Ironmans, which is awesome. And I remember from my notes, you were a 4-time Ironman all-world athlete and 2-time USAT age group national qualifier. Those are some pretty awesome things that you've already accomplished in the sport. Like, do you have any big goals that you have out there for 2021 or even way further out? Because, we don't really know when we're truly going to be racing again. Even races that we've signed up and paid for, we don't really even know if they'll actually happen. So what do you have that's up there that's really big front of mind that you're targeting and shooting for?
Yeah, I've got, I'd like to do in the upcoming year some more running. I did enjoy my experience trail running and getting involved in ultra distance. I have a half Ironman time goal in mind that I'd still like to achieve, and a full Ironman distance time that I'd still like to achieve. So there's a couple of things that I'm trying to work so that I can attain those should we race this year or if it's next year. So I do have, I'm not done, that's for sure. I have time goals. I have a couple of iconic races that I'd like to do in the future at some point. My husband and I would like to do Ironman Texas in the future, just because we've never been to Texas and it looks like a super fun race, super challenging. And like you said, with the 50 miler, no, I'm probably not done there. My husband said to me the other day, he's like, so when's the 100? And I said, well, after this year, after Ironman year, then we'll work on, and then I want to run the 50 for a certain time. Like I wanted to make sure the first time I could do it, that distance in a certain amount of time. But now I want to do it 4 times because I feel like I could have pushed some things a little harder and I could tweak some nutrition things. There's always like a learning experience that you want to try again to nail those things. But yeah, just staying on top of it. I want all my athletes to be able to race this year. I really do. We did a lot of virtual stuff with COVID last year, and I was lucky, blessed to have my folks stay with me, even during times of unemployment that they may have gone through, or just having all their races canceled, postponed, whatever. But they like me as a coach. They're treated like family, and to have them stick by me through dark times like that makes me really proud of what we have here together, my husband and I, and just to keep everybody healthy, and just, again, it'll be another year of fundraising. I do a lot for Team Blue Line, which is a police-driven charity that we raise a lot of money for those police officers that have been disabled, injured, or killed in line of duty. We raise money for their families. So I'm looking to do a lot more of that, and just keep on keeping on.
Well, that's great. You're doing the fundraising for Team Blue Line. We will 100% link that up in the show notes. What is the name of your tri team and the team that you're coaching? And I know you had sent me a webpage, so I'll certainly link, to your webpage where you're coaching your athletes. What is the name of your team for anybody who might be listening and thinking of, getting involved and maybe wanting to hire you as a coach?
Yeah, of course. We are on Instagram and Facebook as it's the RaD FaM, RaD FaM. And that's actually an acronym, and it's short for Ray and Dani Fitness and Multisport.
I love it. I absolutely love it. That's a classic.
So it came out of, just playing around with names and words and things that we thought would encompass us. But then we realized that our initials alone are just like, it's RaD. It's Ray and Dani, and
I love it. It works, and it totally fits from the branding side. So we not only have our Team Rivs connection, but we also got Team Love the Pain going on. So we got that connection.
Yes,
I'm a brand ambassador for them as well. So yeah, I saw you posted a shot from one of your favorite kits last year recently. So we got that going on, and I'm sure your team, you probably have all kinds of really cool rad stuff.
We've got lots of rad stuff. Yeah, and it's not not limited to people that actually hire us. I have gear and attire for people who want to support us, just like we wear everybody else's stuff to support whatever organization that goes to. We're the same way. I know some triathlon teams are like, you can only wear our stuff if you're part of the team. I'm not like that. We run kind of just be on whatever team you want to be. We're here to coach. We're here to have cool gear. Give some advice, unsolicited. It's kind of just the way we operate. So we're not, people can see our gear out there on the social media side and be like, oh, I want that. But you can actually have it. I don't require people to be like paying athletes to rock some of our stuff, to rock our rabbit, which is cool. Our logo. So
cool. I love it. Well, it's been an absolute blast talking to you and having you on the show. I have no doubt your tri story, and now getting into ultra and overcoming your fear of the open water and all the amazing things that you've done to become the athlete you are today will definitely inspire anybody who's listening to the show. So it's been super fun getting to know you better.
Oh, so much.
See you through the Zoom screen is also super fun. So we always close off every show. We always tell everybody keep lacing them up, and always remember to stay in the fight. Peace out, everybody.
Thank you.